When you have family gatherings, have you been warned about that one uncle to stay away from? That one uncle whose beady eye stares at you and your cousins, who are all children, a little longer, a little bit too much, so that your stomach fills, not on the foods your aunties, grandmother, and mother made, but fills from disgust? That one uncle who hugs you a little bit too tightly and too roughly in all the wrong places, places that you will start to hate when growing up. That one uncle whose name tastes like the spinach you avoided in your plate, but ended up inside of you anyways. What do you do when that one uncle is your own father? What do you do when what he does is not to you, but to your own mother, who says she doesn't want it, but he says she's a bad wife otherwise, says that it's her duty, says that it's legal, even though it's not? For my father, patriarchy is alive and well, especially in the tradition of marriage. So now, what do you do when you see this version of love so warped and distorted and twisted that you don't want it or anything associated with it? That you disassociate yourself from your body every time he demands a kiss on both cheeks and a hug from you for weeks, ruminating whether you should speak up, hating yourself for staying meek and quiet, cowering in fear in this game of eternal hide and seek, knowing that his hands are the reason why your mother doesn't want you to marry a Korean man. So now I can only watch as he watches his K dramas and tells my mother, "Why aren't you like that?" Watching as fantasy and reality becomes blurred, such that no therapist would be able to understand, no friends who are best friends with their parents would be able to understand, and what stranger could I turn to? So I turned inwards, hating my own skin and blood, knowing that it's shared with him and a product of him, wondering if my birth was a product of love or rape, wondering if I will continue the same cycle of intergenerational trauma and violence, wondering if one day I will be able to hug my mother, both of us so afraid of physical touch when it is the love language he demands the most, knowing that I cannot deny him because he is my father. After all, he is the one who pours the tea into my cup. Growing up, when people used to ask me what I feared the most, I used to think, turning out like my father, until I realized that I had already been normalizing and acting out the same behaviors he had. Because when you are the daughter of an abuser, you learn the best from the best. So you lose friendships and relationships until you are able to build yourself up from bare bones and stitch yourself up back together without the guidance of your mother, a healing process so isolating, you find loneliness itself your constant companion. Is this how lonely my mother must have felt, whose friendships terminated upon marriage with my father? Her contract with loneliness? So now when people ask me what I fear the most, I think, turning out like my mother, who tells me she can deal with all that my father has done to her and will do to her as long as me, my sister, and her have a roof over our heads. But this roof is all but a facade of a loving, thriving family. And I hate being a doll in a two-story house that is beck and call, because as much as my mother is a trophy wife, I am a trophy daughter. So this is my taboo, because these thoughts will just stay in my head lest I air out the dirty laundry and bring shame to me, myself, and I and my family. And this is why I hate going to family gatherings, knowing that those supposedly closest to me are the most unaware of what happens behind closed doors. So this is our taboo.